What's going on, everybody? Almost Counts Collectibles here, and in this video we're just going to have a brief discussion about the newly fully revealed toy line coming from Playmates Toys for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, I've seen a lot of video footage surfacing recently, as of today. Maybe that came out a few days ago and I'm just now seeing it. I'm not exactly sure, but a lot of the footage that I'm seeing has been coming from the 2025 New York Toy Fair, where they had all of the upcoming toys from the toy line on display, and they talked briefly about it. Now, I'm going to throw up some clips and some images of said toys as they were revealed there, and just kind of give my 2 cents on it. Now, this is completely 100% my opinion, and your opinion may be completely different, and that's fine. I just want to talk briefly about it from a die-hard Power Ranger fan and a lifelong collector. Kind of my thoughts on the toys, what I predict the future of the toys in that toy line as far as its performance and stuff goes. But I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it. So first off, they showed the new Automorphin Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the Re-Ignition line. Now, much like the Automorphin figures that Hasbro pushed out, not the re-release ones that the Bandai America, legacy kind of line did, that were an exact re-release of the original Automorphin Rangers, which I personally did appreciate and I did like. I'm talking about the more child-driven release of the Automorphin Rangers that they redesigned. Personally, there were qualities that I liked about those Rangers. I did review videos on them. You can go check those out. But ultimately, overall, I didn't like the figures because of the very large bulkiness and appearance of the Rangers. They just didn't look like the Rangers. I understand that the automorphin function, given that you need an internal compartment, would be kind of difficult to pull off. However, the original Automorphin Rangers I thought looked good. They weren't really large, bulky Rangers like the later Turbo and Zeo Rangers were. They were a little more bulky looking than the original Mighty Morphin. I thought they were more slim and more Ranger-esque. And I think that they should have just modeled the ones that they were going to do after the old Rangers, gave them a little more articulation in the legs, possibly in the arms. The head sculpts could have been slightly better. The paint application could have been slightly better. And overall, I don't think that would have been an expensive figure to make. Why they keep doing it the way they're doing it, I'm not sure. It doesn't look good. And overall, the whole idea of them releasing a toy line for a show that is no longer really watched by children, I don't think is going to end well for them. I think they should have kept the quality a little bit higher and tried to aim it towards still an adult collector a little bit. And I don't think they did that. Now, that's just my opinion. But the reason I don't like these figures is, one, they're still extremely bulky looking. Two, they even have the hinge for the chest compartment on the outside now. It's on the front where you can clearly see it. Even the ones that Hasbro released that I really didn't like, they didn't do that. They actually, these new figures are making those figures look a lot better. And they're even making me appreciate them a little more than I actually did, even though I still agree that the overall look and bulk of them just doesn't mesh with a Ranger. They just don't look good. The weapons, I will say, don't look bad for, a cheaper, more child-oriented weapon release. I think the weapons look pretty good. Haven't really seen all the head sculpts really up close. The video gave you a pretty good idea, and I think the head sculpts look well. Personally, I liked most of the head sculpts from the Hasbro released ones, with the exception of Trini's hair, and a few other gripes and complaints, but I didn't think they looked that bad for what they were. But yeah, the overall look of these Rangers just, I don't have them in my hand yet, so I have to be fair. I don't have them. I'm not getting a really good up close 360 look. I'm going off of a video, but I just don't think they look good. And personally, I won't be buying them. I will have to get them at a discounted rate. I'm sure they're going to be $10+ each. And I'm not going to dish out 60 bucks, 65 plus. If you manage to find them all in store with tax, it'll probably be, 70 plus with shipping. It's just too much for those. They just don't look that good in my opinion. I'm sure they will have positives. I will try to get my hands on some, like I said, if I can get them at a discounted rate, to do a review of them. But I'm not impressed. I'm not excited about them. I don't think they look very well. Now, moving on, they also showed that we are going to receive a different set of figures that don't automorph, but are more articulate and are supposed to be more truer representations of the Rangers. Now, in all fairness, I think those figures look pretty decent. Those might be figures that I will try to get, even if it's at retail. However, Hasbro also did this. As you can see right here to my right, the boxed, VHS boxed, whatever you want to call them, figures that they released. I really like these. I think they look amazing. They even came with their little, power coins. And overall, I think they look great. They display great. Their articulation is good. They had their weapons that actually combine. These are some of the best figures that we have seen in a long time for Power Rangers. Outside of the Lightning collection, which had its issues and problems that I feel like they should have just fixed and kept carrying on. These right here are some of the most impressive ones that I've liked in a really long time, especially for as cheap as they were. So they're basically just re-releasing these. I don't see enough differences. They might not even be as good as these. So yeah, I really don't know what to say. I'm kind of at a loss. I think Playmates, I don't think they know what they got themselves into here. I think they just got this license. They know it can be profitable. They're trying to run with it. But man, Power Rangers is one of those very fragile, delicate things that you got to be careful with, because you can very easily alienate the fan base. And you got to be careful. And I think this toy line is going to alienate a lot of people. But moving on. So they also showed that they're going to release Dino cycles, blue, black, and red, which, as you know, are the only Dino cycles, because the two female Rangers didn't have their own with the Dino bikes. They rode shotgun, if you will, in the little sidecars. Now, I didn't see sidecars shown, and I didn't see the other two Rangers shown either. However, I will say this. One, I think the bikes look good. And they also come with, they said, a exclusive articulated figure. And in all honesty, the figure kind of looked good, but they have this like chest apparatus on that connects them to the bike that they can do this attack action with. And if that attack action mechanism removes from the bike and from the Ranger completely, to where you're just left with the decent looking bike and the Ranger, I will actually probably like those. But we need to get Yellow and Pink Ranger. You can't just give us 3 exclusive figures and not give us the other 2. And those apparatuses, those mechanisms are going to have to detach. I don't like the mechanism on there. I'm not going to play with this in that aspect. So displayability really isn't there. It looks really weird. And yeah, so that's going to determine how I feel overall about that particular product. It has potential to be a pretty cool Power Ranger item, but it's all going to depend on if you can remove that stuff for display purposes and this, that, and the other. But moving on, next they showed a Megazord. Now, much like the original release of the Megazord, and I don't know if I've told this story, I'll tell it in a different video, but I feel a certain type of way about the original electronic Megazord. But they're releasing a non-combinable, so it's just the Megazord. It doesn't come apart into the individual 5 Dinozords, an electronic one. It lights and sounds, eyes light up, it has phrases. Personally, not a fan. I don't really have any desire to get that. I'm sure it's going to be expensive. I don't think they mentioned the price point, but we want our Megazords to transform. And if they don't transform, then they have to be a fairly detailed, articulated version that's like the 5-inch where you can, or 6-inch that you can match up with villains and have displays or, you know, fights, stop motion, whatever. But this is, it looks like a larger item, probably between the 10 to 15 inch mark. It's kind of hard to really get a beat on exactly how tall it was. I don't think it said it on the box. But a very large electronic Megazord that doesn't pair with anything else, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. So yeah, that's my feelings on that. But moving on to the Combinable Megazord. Now, before I get into what it looks like, I'm going to jump straight to the price point. They said that each of these Dinozords will be sold separately. However, I'm sure that they're going to release a complete set exclusive or something like that, like they usually do. But these individual Dinozords, and granted, before I get into the looks, but these are geared towards children. These are not your very highly detailed, show accurate looking Dinozords. They're made for kids, much like Hasbro already released. And in all honesty, yes, that one had its, you could have your own gripes and complaints about it, but for what it was, I thought it was decent, and it was around the $50 mark, maybe just a little bit more for that Megazord. But in all honesty, I thought if they were going to make a kid's version of it, a modern day, you know, made for kids, I think that was it. But they're doing it again, and I think they're getting it wrong. You have to buy all 5 of these separate, and they said each one of these is going to be about 18 bucks. Now, I don't know if that includes tax, I don't know if that includes whatever else, but I think more realistically, you're looking at almost 20 bucks a piece. So you're looking at $100 for all 5 of these Dinozords that aren't as detailed, aren't as show accurate. $100, guys, $100. For a child's version of the Dino Megazord. I don't think parents are going to be dishing out that kind of money for this, especially when there's not a current show on right now that has kids desperately wanting these toys. Back in 1993, 1994, when Power Rangers was first coming around and the show was on and every kid was watching it and they all had to have it, that's when toys were flying off the shelves. I don't think you're going to have that, Playmates. I don't think parents are going to want to dish out that kind of money for it. It is going to have to be a very durable, very fun, and easy to play with toy to even think about getting those kind of prices. And I don't know if they can pull that off. Now, talking about just the looks of the Dino Megazord, once again, they mentioned it was 15 inches tall. You know, I really think that someone at some point needs to realize the need for a transformable Megazord that has villains that scale with it to play with and fight against. I think they should have aimed, if they were going to do a kid's Megazord, an easy to transform but very good looking detailed Megazord that paired with possibly the Lightning Collection larger villains they released, or even the original larger 8-inch villains from 1994. I mean, if you're feeding off nostalgia and you're feeding off the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, here was your chance to do something. You could have had an 8-inch Megazord. You could have put a little bit more detail into it. Lowered the price point a little bit because it's not as big, not as much plastic. And now we finally have a Megazord that scales with some original villains to pair with, fight with, display with, whatever the case may be. But they're going with a 15-inch tall Megazord that doesn't look very good. It's $100 and it's gonna fail. I'm sorry, but it's gonna fail. The two things that stand out most for me is the Triceratops and the saber-toothed tiger tails. They're not the proper length and they don't look right. I'm sorry. Saber-toothed tiger's tail cannon is like half the size it's supposed to be. Now the reason for that is it comes with like a blast effect that goes in it. But that doesn't look right, and the blast effect doesn't stay in there when it's transformed, and it just doesn't, it looks like it's missing half of its tail. It's so glaringly obvious. And the Triceratops is the same thing. The two little cannons that should stay in there are like a transparent blue color, and it looks like that it might not even be able to stay in there when you transform it, because it's not in there on the one that they have. I did think the sword looked well. I thought Mastodon looked really good. But those glaring details just, I don't know. Once again, I'm going off of just video footage. I don't have it in my hands. I can't see the quality of it. Can't feel the quality of it. But that price point already is going to be a huge downfall for this. Compare that with the fact that it's not as detailed. There's glaring things that just don't look right. They're really banking on kids loving these toys because collectors are going to be bothered by that. Die-hard Power Ranger fans are going to be bothered by that. I'm sorry, but they are. We can say that we're not, but we know that we are. Just like the things that plagued the Lightning collection, there were things that we just couldn't get past. Things that needed to be addressed, things that needed to be fixed. And that's why that failed. So not impressed with the Megazord. I'm sorry, just not, it irritates me. Moving on, some of the things that I think could be brighter points for this toy line, but we'll have to see, is the weapons and accessories. So we've got first off, we've got the Morpher. Now, when I first saw this, I was kind of excited. Morphers, if they're done halfway right, are always kind of a hit. And at first glance, this one looked like it might be. It's got a lot of phrases and sounds. It recognizes each power coin. It opens and closes. I'm sure it lights up. It looks like it does. But other views I've seen of the Morpher make it look very boxy and thick. And the overall look of it just doesn't look right. Now, from the front, it looks okay. But I'm afraid it's going to be too big, it's going to be too boxy and bulky, and it's just not going to look like a Morpher. And that's what's going to hurt it. Moving on, they had the Power Blaster. Now, once again, the Power Blaster at first glance looked good, and what I love about the Power Blaster is the automatic, like spring-activated blade that shoots out and shoots back in. Looks like maybe with the click of a button. Now that is really cool, but the front of it, it also looks kind of too bulky. I want it to be realistic looking for display. As an older collector, I really wanted it to look good, and maybe if you paint the end of it to look just like the gun barrel, and then the bottom part to blend in with the blaster, possibly. Maybe we can get some stickers or something that we can custom make to make it look better. But once again, the bulky kind of look to it, it just looked a little weird. That's just me. The Dragon Dagger, I think, looked the best out of all of them. There might be a flaw with that I haven't seen yet, but the Dragon Dagger looked great. And the sounds looked to be there for the proper sounds. So I think that's going to be one of the top sellers and the biggest hits is going to be that Dragon Dagger. And then moving to the end, which I think are two of the other brightest points of this whole toy line, are the re-release of the 1994 original 8-inch highly articulate figures that they're re-releasing. They're not, it doesn't look like they're new molds. It looks like just like they did with the Automorph Rangers, just almost an exact duplicate re-release of them. That's what they're doing with the original triangular box 8-inch articulated figures, and I am looking forward to those. Hopefully the boxes and the packaging is almost a duplicate of the original. I will definitely be getting my hands on those. They also had the smaller little PVC figures. I don't know if they're an exact re-release. It definitely looks like they have better paint applications, and the weapons looked like they had better paint applications. So I'm looking forward to those. I thought those looked really good. Depending on the price point, I think collectors are really going to like those. They're also doing plushies, which, you know, plushies are plushies. Most people like plushies. I don't mind plushies. That, you know, they're not alienating or ruining something, in my opinion, with those. I thought they looked good, and they might sell decently well. You know, who's to say? But I liked the plushies, didn't mind them. Not necessarily going to be out to get those. Eventually, maybe I'll try to get my hands on them, but I am most excited about the re-release of the 8-inch figures. And that's sad when one of the brightest points of your toy line is just a re-release of something we've already done because of how good and nostalgic it was. That Dragon Dagger, I'm hoping it looked good, sounded good. The Morpher and the Blaster, I'm holding out hope for, but I think they're going to end up looking a little awkward. The main points of this toy line should have been the newly modeled Automorph Rangers. They don't look good, I'm sorry, they don't. The articulated figures, like I said, we already have them. Hasbro already did that. This is almost kind of a re-release of that. I don't see them being any better than these were, just from what I've seen. The motorcycles, I'm holding out hope. I don't think you're going to be able to remove that mechanism from the bikes. But we'll see. If you can and the bikes look good and the Rangers that it comes with looks good, and we also get yellow and we get pink to go with it, or they can even fit in some sidecars, that'd be great. But I'm not even entirely sure that they have the sidecars. I don't necessarily think it pictured that. I could be mistaken, but yeah, I mean, I think the toy line's going to fail. I think Playmates is going to realize that their best sellers are just going to be the re-releases and possibly maybe the weapons. But another thing they did show, so they showed masks, just the little masks that go over the front of your face. They're not complete helmets like the Lightning Collection or anything had. Those are interesting to me because I think they looked good enough to be an awesome display piece to hang on a wall next to a glass case full of your Rangers. You know, you'll have the front of the helmets of all the Rangers on the wall. I can actually see those doing fairly well with collectors. Once again, I don't think kids are going to be really into those masks because they're not watching Mighty Morphin. It's not on TV every day. Kids today, without the show to support the toy line, it's going to be hard for them to get the sales just from the kids. They're really playing a dangerous game there with that. So I think the toy line's going to do bad. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be your negative Nancy. Just I've seen a lot of these toy lines come and go, as we all have who are old enough. And we know the biggest driver behind these sales of these items is nostalgia that's coming from your older age groups, people in their 30s, people with disposable income, people who love Power Rangers from their childhood. And when you start releasing these made for kids, not very good quality, don't look that great figures and toy lines, it's not going to end well. You really needed to appeal to your older age group and collectors. And that, I'm sorry, that separate group of articulated figures ain't going to cut it. We've already had that several times. You really needed to impress in that area. And the only thing that I think is impressing about this, once again, is the re-release of those 94 8-inch figures. But that's not going to carry your toy line across the finish line. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe those aren't even the final products. Maybe they're still tinkering with them. I doubt it. Maybe the feedback will force them to make some changes. I doubt it. I think they've already made it, dedicated to it. They're getting ready to ship it out. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I look forward to doing some review videos for this stuff, but I think I'm going to pass on a lot of the items unless I can get them at a cheaper price just for the purpose of reviewing them or doing videos for you guys. But as far as my personal collection, I didn't really see anything in there that screamed, I need this or I gotta get it, other than the re-release of the 94 figures and possibly those little PVC figures. But I will say this, I kind of skipped completely over them. We do have villains coming with that Automorphin line. And I'm not exactly sure if the Articulate line and the Automorphin line kind of scale the same with each other. I don't know if they're that 5.5 inch or 1 6-inch, the other's 5.5. But we're also getting villains. Now the villains look like they pair with the Automorphin figures, kind of around that 5.5 inch tall mark. And in all honesty, I thought the villains looked pretty good. I'm kind of, that's like the only bright point about all of that stuff. Aside from the re-releases of the original items, that that really excites me. The Squat and Babu looked particularly good. Rita, I've seen worse Ritas. She's not a Lightning Collection Rita by any means, but I thought the villains looked pretty decent. And if all else fails, I'll probably get the villains just to display them with my original 94 Automorphin Rangers and those villains, and call it a day. But the most exciting part for me about any of that is just the villains. And then overall, from the whole toy line, I'm excited about the old stuff. The 94 re-release of the little PVC figures, which I don't think that's necessarily re-release. Once again, like I said, I think they're a little bit improved version of those. And the 8-inch articulated triangular box ones. That Dragon Dagger, I'm holding out hope's going to look good and be of decent quality, because that one overall looks the best to me. But everything else is already kind of looking like a disappointment, or the possibility of a disappointment. So that's just my opinion, guys. If you haven't seen a lot of the stuff, you know, go see if you can find a little bit more in-depth stuff. I'm just gonna, you know, show you what I kind of picked from the internet along the way in this video and what we have here. But with Hasbro already giving us this awesome set of figures here that look great, display great, we also got the individual little Megazords that scale pretty good with villains. Yeah, they missing a little bit of paint application, but overall I thought they looked decent. So they're not really showing us much that we haven't already received, and I just don't think it's going to be enough. But I'm going to go ahead and end my rant there. Hopefully maybe you guys will enjoy them, and that's just the opinion of me, and this is going to be overall great for everybody, but I'm not seeing it yet. I'm not convinced, and I don't have high hopes for it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, guys. Until next time, I will see you next video.